Oh my God.
All right, that's awesome.
This is so
you
good.
win.
Yeah.
That's delicious.
Yep. All right. Well, he said I couldn't do it, but folks, I have done it. This is a rustic pumpkin pie that we are going to make using only real food ingredients.
And I might just keep eating.
Yes. And I'm Diana Keuilian. Welcome to the RHR Kitchen, and I have with me Jason Phillips, my favorite nutrition coach.
I'm back.
Here with us again. Thank you so much for visiting us again.
I'm always happy to come out here.
Yes.
I get fed. I get to
This is
cook.
true.
I mean,
This
why
is
wouldn't I
true.
come out here?
And today we are making, just in time for pumpkin season. I'm slightly obsessed with pumpkins right now.
I'm totally okay with you being obsessed with pumpkins.
Yes. Well,
It led to me having waffles
Yes.
that you guys are not seeing.
Yes, he walked in to pumpkin waffles, which we made last week on my Facebook Live.
Yep.
We made the pumpkin waffles. We used it as pancakes last time. Today we did waffles, which is awesome. And as you know, I'm obsessed with using real pumpkins instead of getting a can, getting the processed version. And so, this time of year, as the holidays are coming up, pumpkin pie is huge.
I'm fascinated about this because I've never in my life seen anything cooked starting with a real pumpkin. So
Okay.
this is exciting.
And you know what? You're not alone. Like most people.
No, I've never even heard of it, to be
Yes.
completely honest. Like when
Yeah.
you told me last time I was out here, you're like, we're going to make pumpkin pie and
Yes.
pumpkin waffles from real pumpkins. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was really excited, but I'm like, I haven't done it.
How
haven't
do we
seen
do it? Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna steal
we
one, but-
decided to show you the end product right off the bat, just so you see what you're getting into here. And I like to call it rustic pumpkin pie because you can see it has a rustic look and feel because we're starting with these real food ingredients.
It's amazing.
Yes. So when you look up the ingredients that are in traditional pumpkin pie, it's refined sugar,
It's flours, refined sugars. It's everything bad for you.
shortening, dairy, grains, gluten, all of that, which you can tell, you get it from the store and it's so perfectly creamy and like the crust is so perfect, which is why I say rustic, because you can see here, like we're starting from raw pecans and some pitted dates and we're using a real pumpkin. So, it's rustic looking, it's real food. There's so much fiber and different nutrients in this that you cannot get from a processed pie.
You're going to get zero nutrients from a processed pie.
There we
So,
go.
just having any sort of real food involved in your dessert is really cool. But, there's a lot of health benefits to some of these foods as well. So, really
Which
cool.
I'm excited for you to, get into with us
Yeah.
as we start. So I'm going to put this down for now, but I'm definitely going to enjoy
We'll
this
definitely be enjoying
after.
that. It's noon. We're eating pie. That's totally normal.
It's noon. It's a pie o'clock.
It's pie o'clock somewhere.
Yeah. So okay. The first thing that I do when I start making this real food pumpkin pie is we start with our pumpkin.
Cool.
And so I have already done the chopping ahead of time because I have a fear of cutting my fingers off on camera. And so I always do it when no one's watching. And so this is just a sugar pumpkin. These days the market is full of pumpkins, but this is the correct size, just a medium.
So this
to
is where
small.
somebody could get this at the grocery
At
store,
the
where
market.
they've got the pumpkins outside, anyone can
Exactly,
get it. Okay, cool.
exactly. But a pretty small one. We don't want one of those huge ones that you're going to turn into a jack-o'-lantern.
Got it.
So we got a small one. I cut it in half. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to clear out the seeds. And I'm going to let
Sweet.
Jason do it because
All right.
Jason has never made this pumpkin pie. Now, have you made any pumpkin pie?
No.
Even traditional?
No.
Okay.
Every pumpkin pie I've ever had has probably been store-bought.
Okay. He's never made
And
pumpkin
I'm
pie.
a huge pumpkin pie fan.
Okay. Well, this
really
is
big pumpkin
this is
pie.
exciting. So all you're going to do,
So we're just-
so you're just going to scrape out the seeds. And this is probably the hardest part of the whole thing, is just preparing this pumpkin to be roasted. And so, this is the step that we're adding instead of using canned pumpkin, which anytime you can start with something that's real and whole.
Yeah,
It's
anytime you're getting whole foods, you're winning. I think that there's a big movement right now to quality foods, but I think that people think, oh well, green beans are healthy, and I'm certainly guilty. We get busy, and so sometimes it's canned green beans, but
Sure.
obviously starting with fresh
Exactly.
vegetables or
Yep.
any kind of fresh food, that's always going to be a winner.
Now, these pumpkin seeds are one of my favorite snacks, and we talked a little bit about this last week. But as you scoop out the seeds and the pulp from inside of your pumpkin, you're going to save it. And so you can see that I have Jason putting it into this nice little bowl here because I'm going to wash it And then I'm going to spread it out on a baking sheet, and I'm going to just roast it in the oven.
Ooh.
Sometimes I add some fun spices, sometimes like a little bit of chili, or other times I will do cinnamon and make them sweet. But you can add a tiny little bit of coconut oil.
The cinnamon one sounds really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Add a tiny bit of coconut oil or some like ground cumin. There's so many different ways you can go. And you're being very thorough here. I love this.
I'm gonna just go in with my hands now.
Yes. And if you don't get all the pulp, it's totally fine. We're gonna roast this in the oven, and this step takes a whole hour. And so,
oh wow.
Yes.
And what do you bake it at?
So we are gonna do 375.
Okay.
And then we just put it face down on a baking sheet.
Got it.
And stick it in there, and we made like a nice little mess, but you can see we just
That's what we
hollowed
do.
it out. You can wash it.
I think this is gonna be like my daughter's favorite part. Like I know she's watching this right now. Like she definitely cannot wait to do this.
Yes, and you know, working with real food ingredients, just like I said, you know, the end product doesn't turn out perfect looking, and the process can be messy, but that's part of the beauty of it. You know, like when was the last time you had pumpkin all over your hands and the smell
Never.
of it? And you can just see the fibers in there. So I have already done this step for us because we do not have a whole hour here.
No.
So we put the pumpkin in a pan just like this, face down, baked it 375 for about an hour.
For an hour.
And you want it to be really, really tender. So that is the first step.
Is there a way? I mean, is that kind of the key? Like when it's done, it's a little bit tender on the outside.
It's
okay,
all
cool.
based on how it feels.
Got it.
So we have this ready to go, which we're going to put this aside with our filling ingredients, and we are going to move on to our crust. Now, traditionally, pumpkin pie crust is, I mean, is there any?
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's
shortening, there's sugar, there's zero nutritional
lots of gluten.
value. Lots of gluten and grains.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here, and this is, I think this part, the crust, is what excites me the most. And this, like, you can use this crust for any pie. So we're literally just starting with raw pecans.
Yep.
You can start with any type of nut. I love pecans because of
that's interesting.
buttery flavor.
Okay.
But you could do walnuts, you could do almonds.
Interesting.
I mean, you could do any nut
And
you
that
want.
wouldn't change this recipe at all?
It would not change it
that's
at all.
Super cool.
Yes.
Okay.
So, you know, some people have allergies to certain nuts. You know, work around that. You know, use what works for you. But I just love, for desserts, I love the buttery flavor.
Well, I've tried it, and I can tell you that we'll stick with pecans.
Yes.
Because it's really
Awesome.
good.
So we are gonna, this is my food processor, which I hope that you have a food processor at this point, because working
A lot of your recipes have
Yes.
involved this, so.
food processor or a high-speed blender, because just using these real food ingredients, you need to, you know, prep them. And
Is there a certain one that you recommend to people?
I love the Cuisinart.
Okay, cool.
I had my other one, which my viewers know, I was obsessed with it. It lasted me 15 years.
Which one was that?
It was a Cuisinart.
Okay.
I replaced it with, and this.
Oh, so you just replaced it with a new one.
Yeah, my
Got
old
it.
one died on Thanksgiving morning.
Oh,
it was just like,
no.
I can't.
Were you making this pie?
I was quite possibly making this pie. But it was just like, I can't go on. Like, it was just, I used it almost every single day for 15 years.
Well, fortunately now, like, all the stores are open, right? Because it's all like Black Friday started 10 years early,
yes,
so.
That's true.
So then you can go get yourself one.
Yes. So first thing, we're just going to stick our nuts into the food processor.
Okay.
And then the second step is, these are fresh dates.
And was there a quantity here?
Yes, and we do have the recipe here.
Okay.
So that was 3 cups, of raw pecan. So
Got
really
it.
3 cups of whatever nut
Any
you want to
nut.
use.
Okay.
Exactly, your favorite nut. And then this is a cup and a half. I'll let you fire that in there.
Alrighty.
Of dates. Now I have this little thing with dates. I know you can buy them pitted, which is fine. You can do that if you need to save time. But when you buy them and you pit them yourself, they're so much softer.
Really?
And there's so much, it just, all that moisture and tenderness stays in there.
I love dates.
Yeah.
Period.
So if you notice, like, they're so fluffy and they're just have all that moisture in there.
Yeah.
And it's because I pitted them last night. And it's actually kind of fun. I got my daughter involved. I had her do half of them.
I think that's half the fun, is like
yeah.
when you can get, and that's one thing that I've loved about like every time we've cooked, is like there's the ability to get family involved.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much, like, I work with people on the lifestyle side of things, and there's so many times where it's like, well, I feel like I eat something different than my family
Sure.
eats. And now it's like, not only are you eating the same things, but you're getting your kids involved. That's so cool.
And when the kids have a hand in making the dish, they're
love it even
excited
more.
about it. They
Yeah.
want to eat it, and they love it.
Yep.
So, okay, so we had a cup and a half of pitted dates. It is important to pit them before you put it in here.
Absolutely.
Because we do not want those pits in there. And then we have just a little bit of salt. It's half a teaspoon of sea salt.
Okay.
And then to help bind it together, we have some coconut oil. So I'll let you put that in. That's
right.
about 6 tablespoons of coconut
6
oil.
tablespoons.
And that is just going to help bind it together.
Alrighty.
If you need to use a little.
And obviously everyone knows at this point, because you've cooked with it so many times, I think we actually talked about it last time or the time before, just the number of health benefits of medium chain triglycerides and coconut oil.
Coconut oil, which
so good.
I think that some people have the misconception still that coconut oil is something to be avoided, which
I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I run into that occasionally, but yeah, such a healthy fat and
such a really it's a really good fat. I mean, if anything, it's I think there was a lot of hype that came out like, oh, coconut oil is gonna make you burn fat, and I mean that's a little overblown, but the number of health benefits is amazing.
And it tastes awesome too.
It does.
So, I think I had you using a food processor before.
We did not.
Oh, I didn't?
No,
okay.
It's first time.
Now, do you own a food processor? I'm going to put you on the spot.
I don't think we do.
No?
But we will.
Okay.
We will.
Now
like, everyone that's watched me cook with you knows, like, we're just getting into the kitchen.
Sure.
Like, for Paige and I, we didn't do a ton of cooking, and what we did was very simple. Sure. And I think that's what we told you is, it's been really cool to open up our kitchen now to new recipes. Like the first thing I did when I went home last time, Paige was like, we're getting out the crock pot.
Nice.
Right? And she's like, she made some amazing recipes with it.
Awesome.
Because it's like, now, like you said, we have the ability to make things that taste good, the kids can get involved, and they love seeing new things on the table.
Yeah.
And when they're involved, it's even better.
And so it does mean getting some new kitchen toys.
We're cool with that.
So,
we can add to our kitchen gadgets.
And this is super easy, so I have it all lined up, and so I just want you to press pulse.
Okay.
And really what we're looking for is we're taking it from these whole raw nuts and these large pitted dates, and then with a little bit of oil and salt, and we need it to become a crust. So we really need to do a lot of blending to get it to basically a consistent consistency, so that we can then spread it into our pie pan.
And so just to reiterate to them, like, we're not just turning it on, we're pulsing it.
We're gonna pulse it.
Okay.
Yes, we are gonna pulse. It might be a little bit loud, but we're gonna get this to the right. Here we go. Yes. Awesome. And this is the fun of real food ingredients.
This is so cool.
This is, if you don't have a food processor, you could chop it by hand. It would take a lot longer.
Yeah, you need a whole other show.
Yeah, and it would be more rustic than even this. But basically, at this point, you can see that it's ground down enough to where we could use it. I like my crust to be a little bit finer than that.
So I'm looking at the crust now, and I can kind of see what it's supposed to look like.
You can see the crust, the finished crust here. Definitely need to get the nuts ground down.
Now, is there a visual, because somebody doesn't have the finished product in front of them, is there a visual that they're looking at?
You know what? Let's turn it on a little bit longer, and you're actually going to see it's going to kind of stick together.
Got it.
And as that happens, the walls are kind of forming. It's kind of sticking together itself. You know that it's ground down enough to where it's going to really stick well in the pan. And you can pulse it a little bit. There we go.
Yeah,
see, you can really see it's.
Yeah, you can literally
together.
see it falling off the sides.
Yes.
It's already it's still sticking together. Yes. So clearly that's what you're looking for in crust.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right. So what step that we are going to do is lightly grease this pie pan.
Cool.
So I got some lovely pumpkin in here.
I was going to say, what do you use when you're greasing the pan?
I use coconut oil.
Awesome.
I honestly use coconut oil for almost everything. If I'm going to do a savory, like when we were cooking chicken and some enpapillote stuff, I did olive oil.
Got it.
I typically do. And
Very cool.
what is your advice for
coconut
people?
oil? So we always resort to coconut oil because it has a lower smoke point. So you can't really cook in a pan as much with olive oil, right? Like it's always better. So just to have one on hand, it's as a rule of thumb, we always use coconut oil. There we go.
The food processor has to be really secure for the blade to work, so it has to be locked into place there. Okay, so you can see what our crust looks like here, and would you like?
Now we're gonna just make it. Now we're just gonna make a crust.
Yeah. So basically, it's just pressing it down and then pressing it up against the side.
All right.
Here, I'll take half and you take half.
All right, let's do it.
So this is fun. This is almost like playing with
Again, this is
Play-Doh.
like, yeah, I love that like you just get to get in and use your hands
Get
and
in there.
have some fun.
And you can really just see the different pieces that we have
cool.
here, and it's just all this fiber.
I'm loving it.
And really, you know, we can talk about all the benefits of it, and we can point out the fiber and stuff, but what always gets me about making a recipe like this is the flavor.
That's
like,
it.
The end product tastes so much better than you think it would.
I completely agree. Like, you know, I mean, I think everyone has expectation because they're used to pumpkin pie a certain way.
Yes.
It's like a traditional thing on Thanksgiving,
Yes.
a traditional fall dessert. And, you know, people are like, oh, well, you're using real foods and you're going to sacrifice flavor. And I can tell you emphatically, as a pumpkin pie lover,
Yeah.
you can sacrifice anything.
Exactly.
And, you know, knowing kind of what I know in terms of the psychology around the way that Thanksgiving meal works and like, what, you know, like for me, I used to do like a dinner and then I'd wait like a little bit, then I would do my dessert, and then I'd probably have like another dinner later on. People don't realize
a lot of
is
strategy
like,
here.
Yeah, but like that dessert is actually triggering that hunger response to that dinner later. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, lots of fats, like lots of healthy fats, fiber, things that are actually going to keep you satiated, not spike your blood sugar off the map, and not actually trigger that future hunger response, which I think is
That's huge.
super important because a lot of times people on Thanksgiving, it's like they're blowing it out, right? They think that, oh my gosh, it's like the Last Supper.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other psychological discussion that we could get into. But
Right.
just like looking at this, that was the first place my mind went, is I'm like, there's so many benefits that people won't even realize.
Yeah.
Not even from flavor, not even from ingredients, but internally things that are going to happen.
You know, you touched on fat.
Yes.
Because that is something that I will have people write into me like, there's so much fat in that recipe, like that can't be healthy.
Yeah.
So, you know, you mentioned fat as a benefit about keeping you full.
100%. Yeah, well, there's, number one, fats drive your hormones, right? So fats are great for a positive hormone profile, which for women, I know you have a lot of women that subscribe, like aging women absolutely have a declining hormone profile. Eating enough dietary fat is something that will keep that hormone profile in check and help you feeling better for a longer period of time.
Is this an issue that you see, like women not
like let's talk
eating
menopause,
enough?
right?
Yeah.
Like when estrogen profiles are all over the place.
Yeah.
Having enough fat in your diet is something that can absolutely make that process way easier.
Which is, it's such a dichotomy from what we used to hear in the media.
Well, 10 years ago, you heard no fat.
I remember in the 90s when I was in high school, like I made it my mission to not eat any fat.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't put peanut butter on anything. Like I would look at the back.
Or low-fat peanut butter, how about that,
Low fat,
right?
like it was just anti-fat. I would bake. When I first really got into baking, it was, how can I replace the fat? And I was using applesauce, and it was like, okay, let's replace fat with sugar, which now we know, like that's
and for some reason, today's society, everyone's inflamed, everyone's got diabetes, like, oh, I wonder why.
Yeah, we have
probably
to
those low-fat diets.
Re-educate and just be okay with, yeah, you know what? There's coconut oil in here. There's fat in the pecans, and that's good for you.
Eating fat will burn fat.
Yeah.
Right? Like 99% of the time, especially people that come to me that, you know, and we're not talking the athletic population, right? We're not talking hard-charging athletes. We're talking people that are looking to lose some weight, looking to be a little bit healthier, you know, improve whatever symptoms they have going on, be it inflammation or lack of the ability to sleep or energy.
Yeah.
Right? Like energy is a huge one that people come to me. They're like, I wake up, I have no energy in the morning, I have that mid-afternoon crash. If you get your fat intake up, oh my gosh, it would change the game.
Yeah.
The guys that are listening to this, fats, like dietary fat is the first stage in your body to converting to testosterone.
Wow.
So cholesterol, it's a 4-stage conversion. And if you're not getting cholesterol, which has been demonized by the medical community, right? If you're not getting cholesterol in, you're not creating testosterone. And we all know the symptoms of low testosterone, which it's running rampant now in our society. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, healthy fat, healthy fat, healthy fat. Like, I love it.
Yes.
It's so essential.
This pie likely has higher fat than the traditional, you know, refined sugar
but
pie.
also the right types of fats. It's not high in saturated fat. Right? Like we're looking monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, all the fats that you should be consuming. Right? And then for the ladies out there, hair, skin, nails, looking good, right? That all comes from healthy fats.
So this is super exciting. Not only is this like
not only is it delicious, it's good for you.
It's so good for you. Okay, so we're gonna get the food processor going again, and actually I'm gonna wipe it out. And maybe just because you know you got my mind going, like thinking like, am I eating enough fats, and what fats am I eating? If you want to maybe just do a rundown of like your top 4 fats, like your 4 items to include in your diet
So one that I know
fats. And I'm gonna rinse this out while you explain.
One that I know you cook a lot with is avocado.
Yes.
And there's no such thing
avocado.
in this world as a superfood, right? Like I don't ever want to have people mistake and think that I think there's like superfoods out there. But I would say avocado is one. I would actually say coconut oil and a source of medium chain triglycerides is one that should always be consumed. I'm trying to think practically as well,
something
right?
We could easily just fit into the diet.
So things that I think that need to be inclusive in a diet. Salmon. And we talked about that the very first time we cooked, right? And so obviously that's going to help balance out that omega-3 to omega-6 ratio.
Now, is it just salmon or any fish?
Salmon.
Salmon's higher in fat.
High fatty fishes. So not like your white fishes, not your tilapias.
Which is another thing we're told that, eat the white fish because it's lower in fat.
You know what? It's so weird. So like our bodybuilding culture and like our physique culture is somehow for a long time drove the dietary habits that were promoted.
Yeah.
And those guys used to just eat like white fish and vegetables. But if you think about what they were doing, they were reducing fat. What were they really in effect doing? They were reducing calories.
Sure.
And it's kind of like we talked about on our last time, people are like, what about fasting?
Yeah.
Well, all you're doing is you're eating for a shorter number of hours, so of course you're eating less calories, right? Like for the average person, that's all they're really doing. And don't get me wrong, there's benefits of fasting.
Yeah.
But so I think that for whatever reason that translated over into the general health scene. But now we're looking at like, all right, you want to reduce inflammation, eat your avocados, eat your salmon, get your MCTs in which are actually ironically going to provide energy and to a very small degree fat burning. I'm not going to go into like the hyperbole of what it can be. And then another one that I'm really big on is red meat.
Okay.
And this is because
another thing that people are like, don't eat red meat.
Yeah. So there's actually some benefits out there. So there's arachidonic acid in red meat, which some studies have showed will actually help with fat burning.
Okay.
Again, looking like for, in the aging population, one of the things that you want to do to preserve your metabolism is preserve as much lean tissue as possible.
Right. Muscle.
Red meat, muscle. So red meat has a really, really good amino acid profile, far better than any of the other protein sources.
Which we did our flank steak recipe a few times ago, which
still
was
my favorite.
awesome.
Like I love flank steak. So
this is like a whole re-education of the way most people eat.
And I think people a lot of times are shocked. Like when sometimes people come to me and obviously I give recommendations, what I do for a living, but they're like, really? Like everyone told me not to do that. And I'm like, but that's what you've been doing for 10 years and yet you still came to me. Like obviously something needs to be fixed. And so
it's super exciting because it's like we get to eat these delicious, amazing things like, these nuts, and it's just
what I think would be really cool is like for the people that have been following you to not only see how their kitchen lives have improved, right? If that's a thing, which it is a thing now. Yeah. Like their kitchen lives have improved, but I bet I'd be willing to bet anything that their health profiles have improved. Like their lipid markers, like in their blood work, all of those things.
The
have
energy,
improved.
it all
daily
comes
energy,
back to
daily
energy.
focus.
It's like the better your nutrition is, the better your energy is.
Yeah, your ability to sleep, which then carries over, right? So all these things work in harmony to create a better you. And I love that.
So exciting. And it's exciting that we get to eat this stuff that tastes amazing. Okay, I'm going to trade back with you.
Cool, let's do it.
We're playing musical chairs here.
There we go.
Okay, so now the last thing to do is to make our filling.
Okay.
Which, once again, the food processor is basically, we're going to throw a whole bunch of stuff into the food processor.
Sweet.
All of these real food ingredients. So I'm going to put you back on pumpkin duty.
I was going to say, when does this come into play?
Yes, this is the bulk of what our filling is. So really, we're just taking the skin off. We already took all the pulp and all the seeds out. So you're just going to, you can even break it in half if you want and use your hands and just pull that tender flesh out. Wow. It's really
soft. I've never
soft.
Actually seen it like this.
Yeah, look at that. And you can just see all the fibers. And this is cooled. And so it's good to let it cool once it comes out so you can just handle it. Pull the skin off. And we have this tender pumpkin flesh. And this, guys, the flavor of this is crazy compared to canned pumpkin. It's a whole different animal.
This is really cool. Like I've never at all seen something like this.
Jason, is this pie going to be made at your house at Thanksgiving this year?
Ella and Paige are watching right now. This pie has to be made. Guys, comment, like I'm sure she's watching. So you're gonna have to watch the comments. Like, Paige, does Ella want to make this? That's what I want to know. We gotta see if we get daughter approval.
Well, she needs to taste it. So we're just being careful, yeah, that the little pieces, the pieces of the skin are being taken off. Now, really, if some of it falls in and it gets blended up, is it going to hurt us? No, it's fiber.
Little
it's
fiber,
fine.
right?
It's fine, yes.
Little fiber never hurt anyone.
Exactly. And as we said, this is rustic.
Wash my hands. Hey,
Yes.
I'm good with that.
This is our rustic portion here. So now the measurements aren't exact because, you know, we used a small pumpkin and we just put all of the flesh of the small pumpkin in here. So, you know, I really hope that you can get away from feeling like things have to be exact.
I like that.
You know, it's just we're working with real food ingredients. We're putting it together in a way that tastes good. It doesn't have to be super exact. Just all the flesh from that pumpkin.
From a flavor standpoint, right? So if people are out there and I'm like trying to eyeball it, and I'm like, if I'm gonna err on the small side or I'm gonna err on the large side, what does more or less pumpkin do from a flavor standpoint?
It's going to taste more pumpkin-y.
More pumpkin-y.
It's just going to taste more pumpkin-y.
So
yes.
I would err on the higher side because I love pumpkin flavor.
Yes. And really what's going to happen is if it's too much larger, it's going to be more filling than you can fit in your pie crust.
Love it.
So that's going to control how much we use here.
Love it.
Okay, so that was our pumpkin. And now we have a full can of this coconut milk.
Love it.
So we're just going to dump that in there.
Now and I was looking at that actually before we got started. Are there certain brands that you buy like when it comes to coconut milk or coconut oil? I know we touched on that last time with the last recipe.
Coconut oil, I'm not as, I mean, I always get organic, but I really like this Thai Kitchen coconut milk because it's so consistent. It always separates from the cream and the liquid. Right now we're using both the cream and the liquid, but like most brands, you have to stick it in the fridge for it to separate.
Got it.
And even then, sometimes it won't, which is frustrating if you're trying to make, like, I have a coconut whipped cream that I love to serve with this, but you only use the cream. So it's really important. So for me, organic Thai coconut, the unsweetened, is perfect. Okay, so now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of arrowroot starch.
Okay.
Now this is our binder. So this is going to hold the filling together along with the eggs. It's going to be what keeps it a good consistency and makes it so it's not runny. Okay, you're gonna keep that spoon because next we have 2 tablespoons of molasses.
Sweet.
And this molasses, it's really gonna add some nice spiced flavor. And Jason, do you know what molasses is?
I don't.
Okay, so it's interesting because the only time I ever use it is if I'm gonna make gingerbread or if I'm gonna make pumpkin pie.
Okay.
So it's, you know, it has that, just when you smell it, it smells like the holidays. And I was wondering, I'm like, what exactly is it? And I know it has a lot of, you know, minerals and vitamins in it. So basically, it sounds like they take sugar cane and they boil it, and basically all of those nutrients that come out of the sugar cane.
Makes sense.
The first time it's called like syrup, and then they boil it down again, and that's molasses.
It's almost like a reduction of sorts.
And so molasses, like, it's super high in calcium, potassium. There's
so ironically, a lot of the over-the-counter vitamins that you buy, and these would be the lower quality vitamins, that's how they're derived as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, is they're taking other substances, they're burning them, and the oils that come off, that's actually how they're getting, like there's certain vitamin D products that you'll get out there. That's how it's derived.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's, you know, I've always just thought of it as like this adds flavor, you know, but
now it adds vitamins.
It adds this amazing vitamins, and when, you know, like going back to that traditional pumpkin pie recipe, you don't add molasses, you know, like that's not part of it. So it's another really cool thing.
Love it.
Okay, so now we have 2 tablespoons of coconut oil.
Okay.
So we're getting even more of those healthy fats in there.
So we have coconut oil in the crust, and then we've got a little bit here as well.
Yes.
Love that.
Okay, so next, this is basically our flavoring for the pumpkin, and I made it super easy, and I used pumpkin pie spice.
Sweet.
And it's a full tablespoon of that, but I'm going to read to you, in case you don't want to go and buy the blend, you want to do it yourself. It is a mixture of ground cinnamon, ground ginger, nutmeg, and allspice. So I'm sure those are all spices you have, and you can just throw them in if you like.
I like having pumpkin pie spice around. Like, I feel like it's, I mean, like Paige loves like a pumpkin spice latte, and like, but
super convenient.
I like having
super
it around.
Convenient.
Yeah.
And I do notice, like, when you smell it, it's what's the
good.
predominant spice that you smell?
I smell some cinnamon in
Cinnamon,
there. Yeah,
yes, which
that's
was
the big one.
It was the first listed ingredient, so it's mainly.
So I mean, I think the hardest thing, if you are going to make your own, though, is like they'll always list out the ingredients, but like the ratios.
Yes.
I'm always, I mean, you're not losing anything by going the conventional.
No, no.
You're not like
just,
losing any vitamins or minerals, or
no.
It's not processed or anything like that.
No. It's the convenience factor if you feel like buying it. Okay, so we're adding 3 eggs to our filling here.
Do you use like omega-3 eggs?
I do.
Yeah, good call.
Yes.
Good call.
Okay, and then we're gonna add a little bit of this pink Himalayan sea salt. This is a quarter teaspoon, but yeah, I add that sea salt to everything. It makes just the flavors pop, and it's
So a lot of
you.
people ask about sodium.
Okay.
And I think we've touched on this before briefly, but there's nothing to worry about with sodium if it's coming from the right sources.
Okay.
So I think that, the medical prescription that you have to watch your sodium intake when it comes to hypertension issues it's very misspoken.
Okay.
And it's really a fluctuation of sodium intake that people need to be careful of.
Which we've touched on this. You need to be consistent,
yes.
and you need to use the correct source.
And so if anything, err on the high side of sodium intake, right? Because you want to be training your body to kick out extra sodium. God forbid one day you don't have as much sodium, you will lose some energy for sure, because your body is used to spitting a bunch of it out. But I would much rather you be in that situation than be in this scenario where you don't take much in, and your body's constantly holding on to sodium, and then you have a high sodium recipe, you wake up swollen, you don't feel good. That's where hypertension comes into play.
Now, does this also apply to like white table salt?
I wouldn't be using white table salt. Yeah. So when I'm saying get your sodium in, use pink Himalayan sea salt.
Yes. So there is a big distinction.
Huge distinction.
So don't go crazy with the white salt.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we are down to our last ingredient, and this is one that we're going to talk about. So this is 3 tablespoons of pure maple syrup.
Okay.
A little bit of wholesome sweetener. Now, it's a pumpkin. Pumpkin has some natural sweetness to it. We added molasses, which has some natural sweetness to it. So at this point in the recipe is where you kind of decide, like, how sweet do I want to make this? Do I want to add a little bit? And this is what I will do to make it like, everybody loves it. The kids will eat it.
Yep.
Like, it's not, but it doesn't, you tasted it. It doesn't taste super sweet.
Not at all.
So this is my thing, but you know what? If you are watching those sugars and you want it to be lower, you could completely leave it out.
How much did you say is in this?
3 tablespoons of maple syrup.
So 3 tablespoons. On average, a tablespoon is going to yield, if I remember correctly, around 17 grams of carbs per tablespoon. So we'll highball and say 20.
Okay.
And let's say you're adding 60 to the total recipe.
Pie, yeah.
It's a relatively low carb pie in and of itself, because it's all made with healthier fats and spices. So and there's 10 servings maybe?
I think it's more
if
like
not
16 because
16,
I make them
right?
small because
Which I think is good.
like we talked about, all the fats, like it fills you up. It's a filling pie.
So even at like 15, right? It's like a gram of carbs that you're adding per serving.
So it's not
So I think that's where people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to add the carbs.
Yeah.
You're only adding a gram of carbs.
It's not considerable.
Yeah.
So if it is a big deal to you, add a little bit of liquid stevia or leave it out and just have it, not be as sweet.
So I'm going to actually recommend that people use this, because I always like
The nutrition coach says use it.
I always like sticking to like the purest form, right? And I know like some people out there are like, oh, stevia's bad or Splenda's bad, or, right? Like, and that's to be debated for another time. But anytime you can get a quality source of real, and we're not talking like Aunt Jemima syrup.
We
like
had
we're talking like real,
grade A, organic
high quality maple syrup.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so there's a benefit to it, and it does bring like the right amount of sweetness to where like the kids like it, and that's important.
Which is essential.
That's completely essential. Nobody's gonna lose a finger, and we're gonna have pumpkin pie. Okay, so Jason knows how to do this. We're gonna pulse it, and with this one, we do want it to be nice and creamy. You don't want big chunks of pumpkin in there. We want it to be an even consistency. We want to get all the spices worked in. You can keep going with that. You can literally put it on if you want. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll let it go for a little bit.
So you're not going to overdo it, is what you're saying?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't want it to go too long, but
it's looking good.
We just want it to be a really creamy, good consistency. Perfect.
It's looking good.
Yes, this is looking good. Now, let's see. The fun part.
Now it's pouring it in.
Thank you, Cuisinart. Okay. So you can see we have our pumpkin pie filling made from a pumpkin. Look at that. And we could scrape more if we wanted to, but that looks kind of like
really
the perfect amount there. And we can get a clean spoon and smooth
Wow.
it out.
I am impressed. Like,
Yes.
This is really cool to me.
And like, how difficult was all this?
It really wasn't at
Right?
all. I mean, this is really, really neat. And I think that a lot of people would look at it and think that the crust was super difficult.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was nothing.
That was the easiest part.
As long as you have this,
Yep.
right? This is kind of crucial
Exactly.
to it.
So step one,
Go and buy a food processor.
which you're gonna have to do before you go home.
Paige, I need to come home to a food. Well, hey, listen, I'm giving my wife a reason to go shopping.
There we go.
That's
There we
not
go.
a terrible thing.
Yeah.
So,
Amazon.
ladies, yeah, we can Amazon
Overnight,
Prime it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I would do.
So-
So let's talk a little bit about the baking.
Okay.
So we are, let me pull up the exact, so I think it's 325 and it's 45 to 60 minutes. Now,
Cool.
what you will find, and you can even see on our crust, like it does start to get a little dark because it takes a while for all of the filling to bake. So what I do is I take a piece of foil and I will just lay it across the top of the pie. So if you see that it starts to get kind of browned and you know it has like another 30 minutes, just stick that foil just lightly. Don't
Okay.
crimp it down, just literally like make a barrier between the crust and the heat.
Got it.
And then let it go for at least 60 minutes.
Cool.
And then once you think it's done, you kind of do this a little bit. Use your oven mitts. We
Yep.
don't want to burn, but do this a little bit. If it's still pretty jiggly in the middle, let it go a little bit longer. Like
Okay.
do it a little bit longer than undercooking it. And then you're going to chill it for an hour, at least a full hour before we slice
and
it.
when you say chill, this is me not being in the kitchen a ton. Are we talking throw it in the refrigerator for an hour?
Yes,
Okay.
so we're gonna bring it to room temperature,
Got
like
it.
let it sit out, bring it to room temperature, and then we're gonna stick it in the fridge for a full hour before we would serve it up. And this is just like any other pumpkin pie.
Sweet.
Same instructions with that. And then we get our beautiful.
Then you get this delicious
Yes.
recipe.
So Jason, this is super fun.
This is so fun. Like I can't say enough. Like I know it sounds like maybe over the top, but like I know I've literally at this point I've worked with thousands of people in my
Okay.
life. And the one like differentiating factor between success and lack of success is the ability to create compliance, right?
Sure.
In any plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm educated. I could write you the best plan in the world, but if you can't follow it, then it
Right.
means absolutely nothing. And I think that having a good time
Yeah.
in the kitchen, keeping it easy, keeping it good tasting, and being able to do it with your family is a massive step in the right direction. So I love it.
Yes,
So,
awesome.
Thank you as
Well,
always for having
yes.
me into your kitchen.
Thank you all for watching. We hope you make this at home.
Yes.
Enjoy this with your family for the holidays, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye.